like liquid silver carving its way between ancient rocks. The stream flowed through the gorge, its crisp waters offering relief to the Apache woman who stepped into its embrace. This place had called to her away from the chaos and grit of her settlement, toward something peaceful where nothing but rushing water and canyon echoes existed. But the moment she'd slipped beneath the surface, setting her clothing aside on nearby stone, cruel voices shattered the stillness. Figures burst from the undergrowth, strangers with twisted grins and malicious intent. These rough frontiersmen had grabbed her belongings before she could react, their mocking cries piercing the air as they disappeared into the wilderness like scavenging animals. Their jeering words hung in the space around her, and she found herself shaking in the cold shallows. Desperate for anything to cover herself, there she stayed, hunched low, river droplets weighing down the feathers adorning her ears, her eyes ablaze with both rage and humiliation. Struggle was nothing new to her. Her tribe had survived raids, starvation, the relentless encroachment of settlers on sacred ground, but this violation struck differently. Being robbed of her dignity like this, exposed and powerless in the gorge, it was a wound that wouldn't heal easily. Still, pursuit was impossible. Without clothes, weapons, or allies, she wrapped her arms protectively around herself, breathing quickly, desperately searching for her next move. That's when hoofbeats echoed through the canyon. Methodical and heavy, like distant drums rolling closer, she sank lower into the water, praying the landscape might conceal her. The rhythm grew louder until a silhouette emerged along the bank. A lanky cowboy stood there, his hat shadowing a face lined by sun and hardship, a pistol hanging at his waist. He carried himself with the ease of someone comfortable wherever he wandered, though the rifle strapped across his shoulders suggested he'd earned that comfort through conflict. Draped over one arm was a jacket faded, well-worn, coated in trail dust from countless journeys. Their eyes met immediately. Despite her attempts to disappear beneath the rippling water, he didn't laugh or mock or sneer like those who'd violated her trust. Instead, his expression held a composed recognition, no menace. No condescension, just quiet comprehension. "Seems someone's done you wrong," he observed. His voice deep and unwavering, she remained silent. Lips sealed tight, mistrust burning within. Cowboys brought nothing good. In her experience, they arrived with weapons and avarice, destroying land and lives without conscience. Yet this one simply stood there, extending the jacket, offering no threats or contemptuous looks. "My belongings were taken," she eventually responded, fury sharpening her words. They found amusement in it. Her jaw lifted proudly, refusing to display vulnerability despite her exposed condition. The cowboy nodded knowingly, as if the world's cruelty came as no surprise. He knelt beside the water's edge, stretching the jacket toward her. "Here," he said plainly. "Nobody deserves to be left unprotected in territory this unforgiving." She examined him carefully, eyes narrowing, hunting for hidden motives behind his gesture. But his expression held no predatory gleam, no satisfaction in her distress. Cautiously, she pushed through the current toward him, each movement heavy with wariness. He shifted his gaze aside, granting her the courtesy of privacy as she seized the jacket and wrapped it around her frame. The coarse material scratched against her skin, yet it became her armor, and she gripped it with unspoken appreciation once she stood on solid ground. The jacket draped like protective covering, the cowboy rose. He didn't grin, simply held her stare as if calculating something wordless between them. "They call me Colton," he finally said after the quiet stretched. "I'd say you've suffered at the hands of men who've forgotten what honor means. If you're willing, I'll ensure they won't bother you again." She shook her head firmly. "I don't require rescue. I require dignity." Her declaration carried intensity, but underneath ran the trembling reality. Alone, she couldn't retaliate against those who'd shamed her. Colton's expression gentled, though his features remained set. "Dignity is something you build," he answered, "but it's also something worth protecting. Nobody has the right to strip that from you." For the first time since the mocking laughter had stolen her breath, her chest loosened. She studied this stranger before her, The man who'd arrived not with ridicule but with protection a barrier against the hostile wilderness. He waited there patiently, not pushing, not demanding faith, but extending it freely. She understood then that power could emerge not only from inner fire, but from the rare individuals generous enough to give without claiming. In that instant she recognized their destinies were intertwined. Though the surrounding world would never make it easy, canyon breezes carried silence between them, disturbed only by grass rustling softly and a hawk's faraway call. The Apache woman, still clutching the cowboy's jacket against her damp body, felt her shame transforming into something fiercer and anger that refused extinction. She'd been violated, and the memory of those men celebrating their theft seared her consciousness like a brand burned into rock. Colton remained steady before her, neither advancing nor withdrawing, awaiting her decision. She'd never believed in cowboys, yet this one hadn't transformed her suffering into entertainment. Instead, he'd restored her dignity when others had stolen it, and that reality disturbed her heart. "I'm not requesting your assistance," she stated eventually, her tone soft yet edged with steel. "But I won't forget their actions. I won't pardon them." Her fingers tightened around the rough fabric, her dark eyes glinting with unspoken determination. Colton nodded once, as if her declaration was a vow he honored. "Then we'll pursue them," he stated, his voice composed but resolute. "You don't need saving, but justice, that's something we can hunt down together." Her gaze snapped upward, surprise crossing her features. No man had ever proposed partnership, only control or dismissal. For a long moment she evaluated him, measuring the danger. Finally she gave a single nod. "We ride," she agreed. Colton turned and brought his horse nearer. The creature, a robust brown mare bearing a scar across its nose, lowered its head as if acknowledging her presence. She climbed up carefully, keeping the jacket secure around her. While Colton swung into the saddle with fluid ease, they departed across the gorge, the stream fading behind as the path ahead beckoned like a commitment written in earth. The trail proved simple to follow, boot marks pressed deep into yielding soil, careless laughter drifting faintly forward on the breeze. These men lacked cunning. They were intoxicated by their cruelty, confident that no repercussions would reach them. The Apache woman leaned forward, her hair still dripping against her face, her jaw fixed with resolve so fierce the canyon itself seemed to bend closer in attention. As they traveled, Colton glanced toward her, his brow creasing beneath his hat's rim. "What should I call you?" he asked gently, respectfully. As though names weren't things to be seized but freely offered, she paused, then replied, "Nia." The word flowed from her lips like the river's melody. Colton echoed it once softly, as if committing it to memory. The path curved through a tight passage, sandstone walls closing in. Voices drifted through the atmosphere, rowdy, cruel laughter, the sounds of men who believed themselves beyond consequences. Nia stiffened, her grip tightening against the reins. She could nearly visualize her garments in their possession, displayed like prizes. Colton raised his hand, signaling her to slow. Together they dismounted, securing the horse to a scrubby tree, and crept forward around the curve. The men sprawled near a campfire, 3 of them, their rifles carelessly abandoned on the ground. One brandished her dress overhead like a flag, taunting, while his companions roared with amusement. Nia's blood blazed hot within her veins. She yearned to charge forward, to reclaim what was hers, but Colton's hand rested gently on her arm. "Wait," he whispered, his eyes razor-sharp and frigid. "They'll understand soon enough." He strode into the clearing, his boots crunching gravel, his pistol already drawn. The laughter vanished instantly, replaced by startled oaths. "Gentlemen," Colton said, his voice solid as bedrock, "you've claimed something that isn't yours." The men scrambled, hands reaching for their weapons. But Nia stepped forward beside him, her chin elevated, her presence a weapon sharper than any blade. "Those belong to me," she declared, her voice ringing clear and powerful against the canyon walls. Her statement sliced through silence, and suddenly the men appeared uncertain. They'd anticipated helplessness, not defiance. One of them scoffed, spitting into the dust. "Why does it? She's only—" But the insult died unfinished. Colton pulled back the hammer on his pistol. the metallic click cutting through the air like lightning. "Complete that thought," Colton warned, his tone low and lethal, "and I'll guarantee it's your final one." The man's throat worked. His confidence crumbling under the cowboy's stare, Nia advanced. Her eyes locked on the garments in their grasp. "Return them," she ordered. The men wavered, but Colton's weapon remained steady, and gradually, reluctantly, one hurled her clothing into the dirt before them. The mockery drained from their expressions, replaced by the stark understanding that they'd crossed into territory where consequences carried guns and steel. I stooped to collect her belongings, clutching them with shaking hands, not from terror, but from the wave of victory surging through her. She straightened, her voice resonating like forged iron. "If you ever touch me again, or any woman from my people, not even this canyon will shield you from my retribution." The men fidgeted nervously. None brave enough to respond. Colton finally lowered his weapon, though his stare remained fixed on them like burning metal. "I'd suggest you leave this territory," he stated coldly. "You've destroyed your welcome here." With that, he turned to Nia, allowing her the space to claim her own triumph. Together, without another look at the cowards, they returned to the horse and mounted Dot as the canyon spread wide before them. Nia held her recovered garments close, though the jacket still covered her shoulders. She turned to Colton, her voice softer now, stripped of fury but not of strength. "You weren't obligated to stand beside me," she said. He met her gaze, his eyes unwavering. "True," he replied, "but no man should stand against you either." For the first time in many cycles, Nia felt something beyond mere survival. She felt trust delicate as daybreak, but real as the ground beneath her feet. The cowboy hadn't claimed her power. He'd helped her wield it. And as they rode together into the vast desert expanse, she understood their journeys, though separate, were bound together by the river's flow and the flame of justice that neither could carry alone.